In this video, we will be talking about the G1000 avionics, more specifically about the PFD or the primary flight display. That's the display in front of the left seat, in front of the pilot that you see, and it basically consists of all the flight instruments concentrated on this one display. Flight instruments plus some navigation instruments, also some communication and other things as well. Okay, so the whole background of the PFD consists of the artificial horizon or the attitude indicator. This attitude indicator is basically working on the same principle as any other attitude indicator, except it's much bigger, and that's the advantage of that. Because this attitude indicator is so big, it's much easier to notice any change you have to your pitch or to your bank. So we'll start from the top. In the top you see an arc displaying the bank angle. So right now we're flying straight and level, and if the airplane is in a bank, it will look like this. So right now we're in the left bank and our bank angle is 10 degrees. This would be 20 degrees. This would be 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and so on. The triangle on the bottom is split into two parts. And the bottom of the triangle is acting like an inclinometer, or the ball that you have in your in your turn coordinator. The way it works is basically if you see a deviation like this, that means your flight is not coordinated. In this case, it means that we are turning right and our turn is a skidding turn. You can see that the ball is outside of the turn. So to coordinate our turn, we need to press the left pedal until the bottom of this triangle centers itself. This would be a slipping turn, so we need to press the right pedal to center the bottom of the triangle. The pitch is indicated by the degree marks, and the current pitch of the aircraft is located at this position right here, at the tip of this sort of a chevron, the airplane symbol. So our current pitch is 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15, 30, and so on. If such an extreme pitch is present, you will see the red chevrons showing you that basically your pitch is way too much. You will hopefully never see this in real life. And the same applies for pitching down. 10 degrees, 20, 30, and so on. On the left-hand side from the artificial horizon, we have the airspeed indicator tape. This tape basically indicates the airspeed in this black window. So our current airspeed is 104 knots. And the airspeed indicator has the basic same segments like an regular analog airspeed indicator. So this is how it starts. This is what it looks like on the ground. And as we accelerate, the airspeed indicator will show an increase in the airspeed, and this is when we make the call out of airspeed alive. Here you can see we start to see the white segment. Yeah, the beginning of the white segment is the stall speed in landing configuration. The beginning of the green segment right here is the stall speed in clean configuration. Just like in an analog airspeed indicator, stall speed in a landing configuration is lower. As we get faster, we can see that the white segment is ending at 85 knots, which means we cannot extend flaps above 10 degrees if we are flying faster than 85 knots. As we continue accelerating, we're approaching the end of the normal operating range and we're entering the caution range, what's usually known as the yellow arc. In this case, it's just simply not an arc, it's a line. And we are approaching a never exceed speed right here. Basically, above this airspeed is already structural damage or destruction of the airplane. On the bottom part of the airspeed indicator, we can see the indication of the true airspeed. True airspeed is extremely useful, especially in IFR flying. It's not measured, it's calculated by the avionics, by the G1000, and you can see it right here. On the right hand side from the attitude indicator, we have the altimeter. So the altimeter is indicating currently 5,920 feet. It's showing us altitude in the increment of 20 feet. So every 20 feet it will show us the altitude, and it works like this. So if I'm climbing, you can see that the altitude is increasing, and you can see the tape is sort of moving downwards and the number here is increasing. As we're descending, the same is happening. The number is decreasing and we can see that we're pitching down, and also on the right hand side from the altimeter, this is the vertical speed indicator. So our current vertical speed is 700 feet per minute descent. So rate of descent 700 feet per minute. If we're climbing, this is our rate of climb, 950 feet per minute. If I want to level off and not climb nor descend, basically I put the vertical speed indicator needle exactly inside this triangular opening. I match it up. You can see there is no number here, so when the airplane is not climbing and not descending, there is just simply a black needle, there is no number, and as we gain some vertical speed, there appears a number and we start climbing or we start descending. Below the altimeter is the altimeter setting. So this is your pressure setting, the QNH that you receive from the radio or from tower, and you set it. To set your QNH, you need to use this knob right here. There is actually two knobs there. The outer one is the bigger one, and the inner one you can see has a triangular shape. It's a smaller one. You can actually see a schematic here. The triangular knob is responsible for course setting, and the outer bigger knob, that's circular, is responsible for the barometric setting. So this is a knob that we need. So as we turn this knob, look here, and as we turn this knob, we can see that altimeter setting is changing, and we can see the changing in the indication of our altitude. So for example, our QNH is 1003 and we are currently 6,000 feet above mean sea level. Below the artificial horizon, we have an instrument that's called an HSI, or the horizontal situation indicator. Basically, it consists of several parts. One of them, the basic, is the heading indicator. So just simply As you turn, the heading indicator will be turning in the opposite direction, and in this window right here, it displays you the current heading of the aircraft. This little diamond right here shows you your course. So, in case of crosswind conditions, your heading and your course will not be the same. So, in case of, let's say, a right crosswind, your heading will be more than your course because the crosswind will blow you from right to left. So, for example, our current heading is 285. We can see that the diamond is about 5 degrees to the left, so our course is actually 280. If we want to know the precise information about the wind, there is a window that displays the wind. There are several ways to display wind. One of them is this one, and this is probably the best way. It separates the wind into two parts, headwind and crosswind. So we can see right now that the wind is blowing in such a way that we have 9 knots of right crosswind and 4 knots of headwind. Another instrument that is displayed in this part of the HSI is the turn coordinator, or more specifically, indication of the rate of turn. This magenta arc right here indicates the rate of turn. So when it's extended like this to the second mark, it means that the aircraft is turning with a rate 1 or 3 degrees per second. If the magenta arc is only extended to the first line, it means we're turning half of the rate 1. It means 1.5 degrees per second. Another very useful tool on the HSI is the heading bug right here, this blue heading bug. Heading bug is used basically for feeding the information to the autopilot, but even in the manual flying, it's a very useful tool. You operate the heading bug by turning this knob right here. So if I want to move this heading bug to the left to decrease the heading that I want to capture, I turn the heading bug to the left. If I want to move it to the right, I turn it to the right. If I want to put the heading bug to my present heading, instead of turning the heading bug, I simply can press the heading bug, knob, and the heading bug immediately jumps to my present heading. So for example, I put it somewhere here, I change my heading, I want the heading bug to jump to my present heading, I simply press it, and it's right there. We will discuss the CDI and the rest of the indications regarding the radio navigation guidance later. So, the indication of the wind is displayed right here. There are other ways to display this wind. If I want to show the wind in a different way, I have to go to PFD, wind, and I have 3 options. So right now we're using option 1. You can see it's kind of activated right here. I can set it to option 2, and now we simply have an arrow, so it's the direction of the wind relative to the aircraft and the wind speed. And the option 3, same. The arrow showing direction of their wind relative to the aircraft, and we have textual information about the direction and the speed of the wind. So we have direction of the wind is 360 degrees true, and the speed is 10 knots. We can turn off the wind indicator, and the most preferable way to display the wind is with the crosswind and the headwind parts separated. On the bottom left corner of the PFD, there is an outside air temperature indication. For IFR flying, outside air temperature is important because if you're flying in lower temperatures, if the temperature is approaching the freezing point, and we're flying in IMC, that means we're flying in clouds, in fog, in precipitation, we can have icing forming on our aircraft. And in this case, because Cessna 172 is not certified for flight into known icing conditions, we need to pay attention to the temperature. On the bottom right hand corner we have a clock, time in the UTC, hours, minutes, seconds. Here we have a display of our transponder code and the transponder mode. To change the transponder code, we have to go here, press the button XPDR, and if we want to change the code, we press the button code, and we change the 4-digit code to whatever we want, and when we press the last number, that's all. We don't need to press enter or anything like that. We simply just enter the last number and it's already there. If we want to change the mode of transponder, we can do it as well. We can put it to standby, to on, to the ground. We can also use the ident function, and in this case our aircraft will be displayed on the controller's monitor. Basically, you only use the ident function when the controller is asking you to do that. Another very useful function is the timer and the reference function right here. And in the top part we have the timer. It simply counts up or down the time for us. So right now you can see it's blinking and it's asking if we want to start. To start it, we have to go here and press enter, and you can see the timer is running. You want to stop it, press enter again. You see it stopped. You want to reset it, press enter again, and it has zeroed out. To use other functions here, we need to move this cursor down. We use the FMS knob for that. So the outer knob, the bigger knob on the FMS cursor, we turn it, and you can see now it jumped here. And this is the part where we want to stop for a second. During your IFR training, you will fly instrument approaches, which have certain minima. And those minima are based on the altitude. They're based on your altitude, and you want to set the minima so that the G1000 knows at which point to offer you a missed approach. So if you want to set the minima here, you need to select another option. Right now the minima are off, so you want to change this value. Now if you move the outer knob, it will just jump to here. So first of all, you need to change this value. To change the value in the selected field, you need to move the inner knob, the smaller one. So you turn the smaller knob, and now you can see that the minimums have changed from off to the barometric minimums, basically your altitude. And now you want to set this altitude, so you have to go here. That's right, we move the FMS knob, the bigger one more time to the right, and now we can set our minima. So let's say we have a minima of 1270 feet, and that's all. We press enter. For the cursor to stop blinking, we need to press the FMS knob. So right now the minima are set. If we want to close this window, we can simply either press clear, or we can press the timer and reference button again. On the top of the display, we have functions regarding the setting of the radio and regarding the setting of navigation aids. So the radio setting is right here. We have two main radios in this airplane, COM1 and COM2. You can always only transmit on one frequency, but you can monitor multiple frequencies. In G1000, we have the standby frequency in the blue rectangle. So if I want to change a frequency, I am changing this frequency right here using the communication knob. The outer knob would change the megahertz, the inner knob would change the kilohertz. So let's say I want to set 122.005. So I have to move the outer knob to 122 and the inner knob to 005. And if I want to switch the frequency to active, I use this button right here, press it, and now it jumped to the active. If I want to select the COM2 instead of COM1, I have to press, not turn, but press the communication knob. And you can see by pressing, we are switching between COM1 and COM2. And now I can select another frequency here and put it into the active. If I want to quickly put an emergency frequency 1 to 1.5 into the active frequency, I don't need to select it manually. All I need to do is press and hold this button for 3 seconds. Okay, I guess not. Ah, there we go. So, I guess 5 seconds. Yeah? So you saw that. So I press and hold this button, and we have emergency frequency in the active. So that was the panel of communication radios. Now if we move to the left hand side, we can see frequencies for nav aids. We can see two navigation radios, nav1 and nav2. Normally we use nav1 as our main source of navigation and nav2 as a standby. You can see it has the same principle. So in the blue rectangle is the standby frequency that we set with the knob, and in the other side is the active frequency. So we can switch them like this. And you can see right here, because this nav aid is Oscar Tango Alpha VOR, and the nav aid is within the reach of the airplane. If you press the ID button right here, the Oscar Tango Alpha indicator will automatically display. So this is actually the equivalent of listening out for the Morse code that you usually do when you check if the nav aid is operational or not. Again, if you want to switch between nav1 and nav2, you need to push the nav knob, and now we can select frequency in the nav2. Now the display of nav1 or nav2 is indicated here. So we can see right now we have a VOR frequency set in nav1. If I press the CDI button, the VOR frequency that would be, if this would be some sort of a active frequency, there would be a bar. But right now you can see that there is no CDR bar. So this means that there is no signal, there is no reliable signal from nav2. From nav1 we have a signal and we have a course deviation indicator and the bar that shows how we are deviated of course. There is also a third CDI option, and that is the GPS. So if the source of navigation is GPS in general in the philosophy of Garmin, it's displayed in this pink color. It's called magenta. So if you see something, for example a track on a map, and it's a magenta line, that means that it's generated to be used by following a GPS signal. Okay, if we want to use a very simple way to navigate using G1000, one of the simplest way is the direct to function. There is a special button with the letter D and an arrow through it. You press it and now you need to select a waypoint which you want to follow. So to select it, in this field right here, we need to turn the inner knob to select a letter or a number, anything. So for example, I want to go to Lima, and now I need to jump from this position to the next position to select the next letter. So I have to turn the outer knob of the FMS knob, and now I go to Kilo, again outer knob to go to the next position, Hotel, Kilo. Okay, you can see that it recognizes that we want to go to Hradec Králové. It will show us distance, it will show us our bearing and our course. And now, so I want to go directly to Hradec Králové, so this is selected, I press enter. Now it asks me if I want to activate, I press enter again. And now what happens? Now the GPS is taking me from my present position directly to Hradec Králové. And if I fly, if I turn around and I fly on the track of 278, which is my desired track, DTK, and I fly on this track, I will end up in Hradec Králové. You have to keep in mind that the direct to function will always take you from your present position to whichever point you are programming it. So it does not care about restricted airspace, prohibited airspace, any airspace. It will just take you in a straight line direct to the point. Okay, we level off. Now we want to sort of straighten out our path, so we press direct to one more time, enter, enter. Okay. Now, to follow this track, I need to keep this little diamond right here, precisely on the tip of the arrow. The diamond is my current track. This 283 right here is my heading. We can see in the wind indicator that we have a right crosswind of 10 knots. That means the wind is pushing me to the left. So my heading is 282, but my track is actually about 277. So there is a difference of 5 degrees. If I simply put my heading on the tip of the arrow of the CDI, well, in this case, I will be going off my track to the left very soon. So G1000 avionics allows you to correct for the wind very easily. The next function regarding navigation is the nearest function right here. So if I want to go to the nearest airport, I press this button right here. I can see that the nearest airport to me is Echo Papa November Lima. The bearing to that airport is 083. It gives me information about the frequency at that airport, distance, what type of the airport it is. So this is a VFR only airport. And it gives me the runway length. So in this case, we have a length of 2,625 feet. So if I want to go directly to this airport, I have it selected already. You can see the cursor is blinking. Then I press Direct to. Okay. The Direct to menu comes on. I press Enter. Now it's asking me to activate. I press Enter again. And now, if you take a look at the map, the direct to function is taking me directly towards this airport. Keep in mind, it's taking me from the present position, so you have to make a turn, and it takes into account that you have to make this turn, but you will still need to go back on track later. Okay, if I want to go to another airport, not the nearest one, but let's say I want to go to Echo Papa Kilo Papa. In this case, I need to turn the FMS knob, the outer knob, and I move it until I have the Echo Papa Kilo Papa selected. I press Direct to, Enter, Enter, and now, if we take a look at the map, now the GPS is taking me directly to that airport. Another useful function in this menu is that the frequency you see right here, if the Garmin database has the database of the frequencies, you will see a frequency displayed here. Now you have two options. You can either just simply look at this frequency and set it manually using the knob, but a more, let's say, elegant and fast way is to select this frequency. So turn the FMS knob until this frequency is selected. Now you simply press Enter, and you can see that this frequency has now appeared in the standby of COM1. Now all you have to do is put it to active, and you are communicating on this frequency. To set up a flight plan in the G1000, you need to open the flight plan menu, and here you enter point by point the whole flight plan. So let's say my first point is Lima Kilo Hotel Kilo. So I turn the small FMS knob. Lima Kilo Hotel Kilo. Okay. Press Enter to accept. So I press Enter. Then it jumps to the next point. So I select the next point. Again, small knob. Lima Kilo, for example, November Mike. Okay, it recognizes the airport. Again, press enter. The next waypoint would be, for example, Lima Kilo Delta Kilo. Okay, it already recognizes that the next letter is Kilo, so it already offers you the correct airport. Press enter. And then we return back to Lima Kilo Hotel Kilo. Okay, so we can do this. Enter, enter. Okay, now we press the FMS knob and we have our flight plan. So, if we take a look at the map on the second display, which we will talk about later, so this is our flight plan right here. This triangle right here. So we have created a simple flight plan. Now, this is how this flight plan looks in the MFD or the multifunction display. If I want to enter some sort of a point between, let's say, Lima Kilo November Mike and Lima Kilo Delta Kilo, I press the FMS knob, I press menu, procedure, no. Anyway, I'll sort it out later. Okay. So that would be it for the primary flight display for now, and we'll continue in the next video.